What's good, my knowledge-seeking friends? In today's video, we're going to talk about the best methods to get more flexible. We're starting all the way at C tier, and then we're going to go all the way to S tier. I have to do it that way because I got to make you work for it. Can't just put everything in the beginning, all the good stuff. So before we even get into these juicy, wonderful, fantastical methods, we're going to talk about structural adaptations and neural adaptations that are going to happen when we're doing most of these things. And we're going to start with neural adaptations. Well, first and foremost, you're gonna get that immediate bang for your buck in the first few minutes to a few hours. But really, you're gonna get a lot of those neurological benefits 2 to 4 weeks. You're gonna start seeing them a lot more. The stuff is gonna start feeling more permanent. First thing is first, your nervous system just develops tolerance to these movements because it sets your flexibility to some degree. Well, not some degree, a big degree. And as you push further into those ranges that your brain doesn't want to let you go into, you learn to be more comfortable. Your brain says, okay, we can go there a little more. It's all right, all good. It's not waving the red flag because your brain perceives certain things as a threat. Because if your arm stretches real quick and real rapidly, it's gonna make this muscle contract and go the other way so it doesn't tear. Our bodies and brains very much operate on fight or flight. So you'll start to notice that your muscles are able to go further without your brain triggering that protective mechanism. Continuous stretching desensitizes something called your muscle spindles. And your muscle spindles detect the rate of change in your muscle, right? So if it lengthens real fast, shortens, all that stuff, it lessens the sensitivity so you can get further into those motions you want. So one of the first structural changes is something called sarcomerogenesis. All that really means, chill out, the sarcomeres, contractile unit of the muscles, get added further in a chain during eccentric movement or loaded movement. Not really much with any kind of passive stretching, so you do miss out on that stuff. So let's talk about collagen remodeling. This is gonna happen to the soft tissue structures during these types of stretching or loaded movements. Sometimes tissue is pretty disorganized in the way it's oriented. All this really means is that we're trying to get the tissues to be more oriented in their line of pull. So more perfect, right? Bicep fibers run this way. We want them to be perfectly aligned in the direction where it's going to experience stress. All these forms of mobility stretching, well, most of them, produce these changes. They're less apparent with some of the previous ones or lower tier ones, but they're present in all if you do them long enough. Also, during this remodeling phase, collagen fibers are synthesized and they're going to be strengthened and realigned to restore the tissue's original function. Now that we got that stuff out of the way, we got good old faithful static stretching, passive range of motion stretching, old-fashioned stuff, which is actually the most popular method, but not the most effective. It has its place. Let's talk about it. All static stretching is taking a range and receiving a stretch, and you're just gonna sit there for about anywhere from 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, doesn't matter. And then you will change positions, reset, whatever you wanna do. You can get creative with it, right? Do whatever you wanna do, but that's the basic principle. Maintaining a stretch pretty passively, right? Because these muscles aren't doing anything to produce a stretch back here. We're just holding. We're just holding. You'll see this a lot in yoga, and by all means, not a bad thing, but you do miss a lot only doing this. It's mostly used to kind of down-regulate that nervous system, get your body relaxed, less sensitivity to movement, lasts a few hours in the short term. Long term, again, mostly neural adaptations. You won't see too much remodeling like you would with some of the other methods of your collagen or tissue fibers. You really want to use this more for a cool down, preparation before loaded movement, or just to relax, get your body to not guard, especially with those muscles that are very tight or kind of stiff and painful. It's pretty good for that in the short term. If you do it, you really want to be having a good amount of volume compared to the other stuff, like 2 to maybe even 5 minutes per muscle of static stretching. That's a lot, and it's not efficient from a time perspective. You also want to be doing these things about 3 to 5 times a week. So this is why static stretching is the only one that is in C tier. Now to kick off B tier, we have dynamic stretching. This is awesome. It is not really gonna get you more flexible long term. I've never heard anyone say, oh, I got so flexible dynamically stretching. Like, no, it's really used before any kind of exercise activity, especially if the intensity is a little high. Again, we had static, the position's not changing. Now dynamic, what do you think that means? Movement, right? Something that is not still. So dynamic stretching, things like that, all sorts of things, right? That dynamic stretching, even going into deep lunge, that is dynamic stretching. It's good to increase the temperature of your tissues, excite your nervous system, and get yourself ready for the movements you're gonna do. So really try to bias it to what you're going to do in that training cycle, exercise, sport event, whatever the case may be. You can do 8 to 12 reps per joint, per movement, per plane of movement, whatever you want to do. And you don't want to have your heart rate spike too much. You really want the work to be maybe moderate at best. You don't want it to be high intensity. To finish B tier, PNF stretching. I'm going to break it down real simple for you guys. You can do this with someone or even by yourself. So usually it's easiest to visualize with a hamstring stretch, especially if someone's doing it for you. So someone will be lying on their back. Someone is going to push that thigh up to create a stretch in the hamstring. They'll hold anywhere between 5 to 10 seconds. At the end of that, that person is going to reverse the function, call upon the hamstring to squeeze and contract for 5 to 10 seconds as well. After that, relax for a second, try to go further into that stretch, and you're gonna repeat that several times. You can do 2 to 4 cycles per muscle that you wanna focus on. Again, 5 to 10 seconds for both the stretch portion and contraction portion. You wanna do it 3 to 5 times a week. This will give you a lot of neural improvements, especially like real immediate in that short term. And you'll even get some structural benefit over time. Not quite as much as the other stuff, but you'll get a little something something. It's really great to use for some stubborn areas before training or some areas that are just so chronically tight. Wonderful, wonderful A tier. We're gonna start off with the only method on this list that's variable. This can be A tier or it can even be D tier, which I don't know if y'all pay attention, D tier wasn't listed, just saying. That is active assisted stretching with a stretch therapist or any kind of movement professional. Why? Because you're incorporating a lot of different variables, a lot of PNF stuff, contract, relax, active range of motion. Let me explain. So you'll be with a therapist, whoever the person is. Let's use the chest, for example. We're doing a pec stretch. The person is going to initiate movement by having the muscles back here contract, and the pec has to lengthen, your chest has to elongate to allow that movement. So you're active, 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 and then they're gonna pull you a little further than that, which is gonna cause a really good stretch. They can also do PNF techniques with you. Good thing too is they can prevent you from compensating. A lot of us, when we stretch, we are gonna compensate. That's not the end of the world, but it can make things less effective, especially when you're unaware of it. I mean, like I said, your brain controls everything. It controls compensations. You're not really aware of it unless you're paying attention. Therapist is also going to tell you where you're limited and give you a roadmap to getting better and achieving your goals. Again, all of this really does vary with the experience and education of said therapist. It should also provide you with some sort of homework so you can do things on your own. And as far as frequency, here's the catch. It is quite expensive. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It is unrealistic to do this all the time. The way you should really use this is for education purposes. Have them give you their opinion or maybe share some information with you, insights, all that good stuff. Then you're gonna take that and then you're going to do extra stuff outside. I mean, if you wanna do 2 to 5 times a week, whatever the case may be, to really, really emphasize, by all means. I only really, at most, see twice a week. Sometimes I've had people come to me 3 times a week. People that come less frequently just have to do more stuff at home, but it is a great way to understand your body, your limitations, and what you gotta do. Again, you'll have a lot of big neural gains, but the structural stuff takes time, and really, you're not gonna get that much structural changes from this stuff. So this next one is best defined as time under gentle or low tension. This is awesome for those really, really chronically stiff muscles, contractures if anyone has those, and any kind of joint capsule stiffness. It's called triple LD, low load, long duration. Listen to those words. All I want you to think about is the person has a weight or a resistance band, something to that degree. And that low level resistance is pushing a body part into the motion you want to get better at. Usually, again, you'll see this with hip, shoulder capsule, post surgeries, all that stuff, when tissue is just really, really stuck. And again, as the name implies, long duration. You want to do this stuff, the low end, at least, let's just say 5 minutes, but surgeries, all those things, 10 to 20 minutes I've seen. And you have to be quite patient with this stuff. It's really best used, as I said, for that true Enfield capsular stiffness, which you'll see in the shoulder, hip, and even when you're very limited in ankle dorsiflexion, this can help as well. And you can structure this differently. If you don't want to do the 5, 10, 20 minutes straight, you can break it up. You can do 2 to 4 minute holds per position, 2 to 4 times. And you're gonna wanna do this stuff at least 3 to 5 times a week. Some people can do more, but I feel 3 to 5 is good depending on your need and how you're progressing. Again, you'll see structural changes here, but that takes a long time, longer time. And you wanna make sure you're also doing some end range of motion work to maintain everything you're developing. Again, once you get the range, you gotta keep it. And the last one for A tier, which is my personal favorite. Oh, I could talk at length about this topic, go all day, make a new video, all that stuff. It's constant conscious movement and/or movement exposure. Let's take a step back. Relax, breathe, stick with me. I appreciate it. Your body only holds on to the ranges it needs, to the ranges it uses. It's very much use it or lose it, which is why I keep saying, after all the other stuff you do, if you choose to use those methods, you have to do something active or weight bearing to maintain those ranges. You need to prove to your body you are capable and you are safe at those ranges. Constantly moving throughout the day, make sure that you maintain ranges. It's less about getting a lot more flexible and more about maintaining. So what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of people don't really have to worry about it because we move a lot in the day, but there's some people that don't move too much. Your body's gonna accommodate for that. So a great example would be, I have kitty cats. I play with them, feed them, all that stuff in a deep squat. That's something I don't have to practice that much because I'm always in it. A good example of when you see it negatively is, let's say, grandpa. Grandpa hurts his back, he can't bend over as much, so he avoids those movements for a while, shuts it down until he feels better. Sometimes that could be 2, 4, shoot, even 8 weeks of minimal movement in the scary range. We know now that's not the way you approach these things. But in that scenario, his body is going to stiffen up because it's not being used in those ranges. Same thing with grandma, hurts her shoulder, out for 2 months, doesn't lift much. Now the poor thing can't reach the top cabinet, top shelf, and she's gotta move everything down 1 level just to be able to reach it because she's lost some motion because there's no motion occurring regularly. And this is also kind of similar to dynamic stretching because in some degrees, you're moving through that range, moving exposure. Doesn't matter how you do it, just move through that range. Ideally, you want these things to be daily. And you can be real clever with this. For example, I love picking things up off the ground using my left leg mostly, so I'll bend over my left leg. Now, I use my right leg because that's a lot more time in that range that I'm not getting, and my right hamstring is stiffer. When you're walking to the grocery store, whatever the case, you're holding something heavy, we always hold it here. Hold it here, you know, things like that. And I know it's a bit more active as opposed to stretching, but the same rule applies. Do things with your non-dominant hand and make sure you're getting exposure in the ranges you want. All right, wonderful, beautiful, fantastic, majestic S tier. We're here, guys. And these two are the absolute best ways to keep improving your flexibility and even support all the other stuff you may be doing or like doing. So the first one we're going to talk about is end range isometric exercises. That's a mouthful. What is that? Isometric is a contraction without a change in joint angle. So if I'm going to push to the ceiling, I'm in this position and I'm pushing as hard as I can, this angle is not changing. I push against an immovable object, or I handle a very heavy load without allowing the angle to change. Usually with the second one, the one that's called yielding isometrics, you want to have a good amount of resistance to stimulate that a bit more. And the whole idea is you get to the last 15 to 20% of your range of motion, of your flexibility range, and you're either pushing against that immovable object or resisting that load, that weight, whatever that is you're using. You're going to hold anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds. You can do about 3 to 5 sets. And you want to do that 3 to 5 times a week. Again, like most of the other things, you're going to experience neural changes really quick, but structural changes 4 to 8 weeks. You got to be patient with this stuff. The last one, which is slightly above the isometrics, is full range of motion exercise, but with an eccentric focus. What does that mean? That means you are focusing on the lowering phase, where the muscle is being stretched the most. But you want to make sure you're getting to that last 15 to 20% of the motion you have. So in other words, if I'm here and I'm doing a bicep curl, that is not going to get me more flexibility. I have this range even more. You'll see as I go back, it starts to get harder. You got to challenge it in the stretched position. Let's look at the chest press because it's easier to visualize. I'm going to be push-up or bench press with a dumbbell. Instead of stopping here, like most people do, or even here, you're going to lower the weight. It's important that you do not do your 1, 2, 5, 8 rep max. 10 absolute max, maybe a little less than that, but you don't want crazy weight. So you're going to go as far as you can really into that last 15 to 20% of your flexibility. Press back up, just like a normal exercise, except you're going pretty slow. You want to lower at least 5 seconds, pause at the end of that range, and then return to that starting position. You can do anywhere between 5 to 10 reps, 2 to 4 sets per exercise, and 2 to 4 times per week. This is really the biggest bang for your buck. You are stretching, but also building strength in that range. You're signaling to your brain, hey, I got this, you can trust me. It is safe, it is stable at this range. Your brain doesn't have to say, oh, we don't need that, we need to protect ourselves, self-preservation. No. Let's recap now, guys. So C tier, static, passive range of motion stretching. B tier, dynamic stretching and PNF stretching. In A tier, we have LLLD, low load, long duration stretching. We have constantly moving through ranges of motion to preserve flexibility and make tiny gains. And we have working with a stretch therapist, which is variable. That goes A to D depending on who you're working with. In S tier, we have end range isometrics and slow controlled deep eccentrics to really lock in that flexibility. So that's been it, guys. I hope you learned a lot. I definitely want to expand upon some of these in future videos, but don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.